Hello and welcome to VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. I want to thank you for joining us today on the show. As always, we bring you the latest in entertainment news, in sports, in fashion, in film and television from around the world. Now, due to the coronavirus, we are still working from home like millions of you around the world. It's almost 4 months since the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 as a global pandemic, which continues to have an impact on every aspect of our lives, including our sports, entertainment industry. And right here on Red Carpet, we are working to keep you informed, and we appreciate you for staying on with us. And with that said, let's get on with the show. And let's start with what went down at this year's BET Awards, which was held virtually, but just as eventful. The award shows honoring Black entertainment and culture was hosted by Insecure actress and comedian Amanda Seales and featured performances by Alicia Keys, John Legend, and Jennifer Hudson. Rapper Lil Wayne used his set to pay tribute to the late NBA legend Kobe Bryant. Zimbabwean musician Shasha won the Viewers' Choice Award for Best New International Act, while Nigeria's Burna Boy won Best International Act. And how can we forget Beyonce's 8-year-old daughter, Blue Ivy, who became the award show's youngest winner in history, winning for Brown Skin Girl, a track from Beyonce's The Lion King, The Gift album. The 20th annual BET Awards focused on the voices of Black people protesting the inequalities Black people face daily, with some artists using their performances to highlight the Black Lives Matter movement. 12-year-old sensation Kidron Bryant, who turned heads on social media with his passionate performance about being a young Black man in today's world, started the show with an a cappella performance of his poignant song, I Just Wanna Live, a song that recently earned him a record deal. Michelle Obama highlighted Beyonce's commitment to the Black community before presenting her with the humanitarian award, saying, quote, "You can see it in everything she does, from her music that gives voice to Black joy and Black pain, to her activism that demands justice for Black lives." The death of George Floyd reignited protests about systemic racism and police brutality targeting African Americans. Movies have been shining a light on racial injustice in the United States since the 1960s. VOA's Penelope Pulu looks at some of those films. Check it out.
At any time during this evening, did it go through your mind that this was not a human being that you were beating?
Dan Lindsay's and TJ Martin's documentary, LA 92, chronicles the beating of Rodney King by Los Angeles police officers and the LA riots of 1992.
So LA 92 kind of tells the story of not just Rodney King, but it goes back and it examines kind of police corruption and brutality in Los Angeles over a 20-year period that got us to LA 92.
The story of the Negro in America is the story of America. It is not a pretty story.
Other acclaimed documentaries have addressed racial injustice during the Black Lives Matter movement. One of them is Raoul Peck's I'm Not Your Negro, on what it means to be Black in America. Another, Ava Duvernay's 13th, on mass incarceration of African Americans in the United States.
States were required to keep these prisons filled, even if nobody was committing a crime.
Feature films have also addressed racial injustice as early as the 1960s.
I would probably start with the film from 1967, Sidney Poitier in the Heat of the Night. The famous scene in there, he of course plays a detective who comes from Philadelphia to help investigate a case down in Mississippi. And in the midst of his investigation, he encounters a Southern gentleman who, in the midst of the investigation, smacks him for being, I guess, too uppity. And Poitier smacks him back, which was probably the first time it was ever caught on film that there was this resistance.
Who told you to step on my sneakers? Who told you to walk on my side of the block? Who told you to be in my neighborhood?
In 1989, Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, about racial tensions, clashes, and police brutality in a Brooklyn neighborhood, was one of the first dark satires on racial divide. The film has inspired a new generation of African-American filmmakers to advance the narrative.
You're gonna go to Frisco, right? See the fireworks?
In 2013, Black Panther filmmaker Ryan Coogler released his debut feature film, Fruitvale Station. The film chronicles the last day in the life of Oscar Grant, a 22-year-old African-American man who was arrested by Metro Transit police officers in Oakland, California, after reports of a fight in a crowded train on New Year's in 2009.
Right now!
Oscar was kneed in the head by a police officer while another shot him in the back and killed him.
Oscar was a human being, and he didn't make it home to the people who he loved, and that's kind of a tragedy that can't really be fixed. You know, can't really be fixed with a settlement or with the length of a sentence.
Fruitvale Station was released after the shooting death of African-American teenager Trayvon Martin by George Zimmerman in 2012, that sparked the hashtag movement Black Lives Matter. A year later, in 2014, Ava Duvernay's film Selma came out. The historical drama follows the 1965 Voting Rights March from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama, led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Hosea Williams, and John Lewis. During the film screening, civil rights leader John Lewis drew a parallel between Selma and the Black Lives Matter movement.
Today, I think the young people and those not so young can learn from this film. They will learn not to give up, not to become bitter, never to hate, but to continue the struggle, because the struggle to redeem the soul of America is an ongoing struggle.
George Tillman's 2018 drama, The Hate You Give, offers a graphic portrayal of the shooting of a black teenager by a police officer after the young man is stopped for a traffic violation. The film led to conversations across the country, among audiences and talk shows, how African-American families have the so-called talk with their sons on how to behave if they are stopped by the police in order to avoid getting shot. The incident in the film is witnessed by Star Carter, a 16-year-old black student who becomes a voice in an uprising against the police.
You know, there's video footage of these events happening, real time, you know, and we knew that this was going to be reflective of reality, and so I think that created a further weight in which we felt like it was our responsibility in order to honor these events and those who've been affected by it.
Penelope Pulu, VOA News, Washington.
Director Ava Duvernay is partnering with former NFL star Colin Kaepernick on a Netflix series exploring his childhood and adolescence. Colin in Black and White will focus on Kaepernick's formative high school years and life in an adopted white family before he became a star quarterback, and a focus for protests against racial injustice. In 2016, Kaepernick took a knee during the national anthem before an NFL game to protest racism and police brutality. He was not signed again by his team after that season and has not played in the NFL since that time. On Instagram, Netflix posted side-by-side photos of Kaepernick and Ava Duvernay with the caption, quote, "He would grow up to play in the Super Bowl and realize you never stop fighting for your dreams. She would grow up to tell stories that matter to millions." In more news about the COVID-19 pandemic, a summit with a star-studded virtual concert hosted by Dwayne Johnson has raised nearly $7 billion in cash and loan guarantees to assist the poor around the world whose lives have been upended by the pandemic. Global Citizen said its summit with leaders had raised $1.5 billion to help COVID-19 efforts in poor countries, along with a promise of 250 million doses of the vaccine for those nations if one is successfully developed. The event included performances by Jennifer Hudson, Shakira, J Balvin, Miley Cyrus, Coldplay, and Chloe XL. Miley Cyrus performed the Beatles song Help in an empty stadium. Meanwhile, Hudson performed Where Peaceful Waters Flow from a boat in Chicago. Billy Porter, Naomi Campbell, Forrest Whitaker, Charlize Theron, and Kerry Washington all recorded heartfelt speeches for the event. Porter said, quote, "The world is changing right before our eyes." Now here is your chance to direct an award-winning film, and it's only 60 seconds. Join the African Mobile Film Festival by producing a 1-minute film in any language by July 7th of this year. You have to live on the African continent to apply to the top prize of 10,000 euros. You have to live on the African continent to apply, and the top prize is 10,000 euros. We will be showing some of the finalists in future right here on the Voice of America. Here is how to enter. Angolan filmmaker Fradique used failing air conditioning units to show a different side to life in big African cities. Red Carpet's Myla de la Salette caught up with Fradique to discuss his work.
Air conditioners are falling in Angola's capital, Luanda. A metaphor the author, Angolan filmmaker Fradique, says is about loss, but also showing the other side of the city that the high rises hide.
I would say the whole idea here was to bring a little bit of downtown Luanda to the world, not only for ourselves here in Luanda, of course, as well, and Angola, because many times in our films we only see one side of it. We only see the beautiful parts of the city, and we wanted to show the side of our city that it's exactly behind our postcard city picture, you know. So that's why we decided to show downtown. We believe that, you know, showing that building, showing those characters would at least show a new Luanda to people outside of Angola, and also to people in Luanda, because like I said before, people are not used to see movies about ourselves here, and outside of Angola, people are not used to see movies from Angola.
In a world where people claim for more diversity in movies, the film is focused on 3 main characters: a maid, a security guard, and the air conditioner fixer. Fradique says it was a good chance to work on something more representative.
Besides the air conditioners, we have the memories as well. The way we saw the 3 characters in the film, like Matacedo is the main character, Zezinha, the maid, and Cotamino, which is also a very important character, is almost the 3 ways we see Angolans facing their reality, you know?
Deixem o nosso oxigênio, deixa-nos em paz, preso no obscurantismo, país do tanto faz, condicionaram quase tudo a...
Air Conditioner was selected to be part of the We Are One Global Festival, an initiative partnering with YouTube, Tribeca, Cannes and Sundance Film Festivals. Myla de la Salette, VOA.
And with that, we come to the end of our show today. Thank you for hanging out with us. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. For more entertainment news, remember to check us out at voanews.com. We are also on social media on Instagram, YouTube, and on Facebook. Remember to share and subscribe. Until next time, goodbye, everyone.